Hey guys, today we are going to have our fraction review. Now we've spent a lot of time on fractions this school year, so um, the videos are very quick, just like a review on how we solve these problems. Okay, and then when we meet in our teams meeting, I will give out some word problems, and I'll also try to post some word problems to your Google Classroom. Okay. So first thing today, we're just going to review all fraction operations. We're going to review what a common denominator is, then review adding and subtracting fractions, then multiplying and dividing. Then on your own, you're going to have an Edulastic practice to do. And then after we meet Friday, you will have your exit ticket on Google Classroom. All right. So just as a reminder, common denominator is a shared multiple of denominators. If I had 4 and 6 as my denominators, then I know my common multiple, my least common multiple is going to be 12 because 12 is both a multiple of 4 and 6, and it happens to also be the smallest one for both of those that's common. You have your least common denominator. That's the lowest common multiple of denominators, which I just mentioned. 12 would be the lowest for 4 and 6. Okay. All right. We are going to watch this quick YouTube video about adding fractions, and then you'll see one on subtracting fractions. Hey guys, today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting fractions. And just like with measurement, adding and subtracting fractions, you have to have the same unit to be able to combine them, to be able to add them together or take something away from it. It has to be common units, the same denominator. So our unit in fractions is whatever the denominator is. Remember, this is our numerator, this is our denominator. Okay, so the problem that I started with in my first video messed up, so the work's already done. But anyway, I have 3 and a half plus 4 and 2/6. Okay, these are the units that I'm trying to get to be the same. So to get the same unit, I've got to list these two units and list my multiples. I'm trying to find the common multiple. Just like we could not add centimeters and inches together here, we can't add two pieces or halves with sixths, okay? So I've listed my multiples here. My multiples for 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, and then I have my multiples for 6. I just listed 6 and 12 because I saw that 6 was already here, making me realize that, oh, 6 is my least common denominator or my least common multiple, okay? So I moved those 6's here, and now I've got to find new fractions. I've got to find equivalent fractions to what was given. My given fraction is 1 half, and I've got to make it into sixths now. Well, how did I go from halves to sixths? Well, I know 2 times 3 is 6, or 6 is my third multiple, 2, 4, 6. So since I said 2 times 3 to get a new denominator, I have to say times 3 with my numerator, and I know 1 times 3 is 3. So now my equivalent fraction is for 3 and a half is 3 and 3/6. Now I have to do the exact same thing for 4 and 2/6. 6 stayed the same. So guess what? If your denominator stays the same, so does your numerator. So I just brought this down, 4 and 2/6. Now I have the same units. I can combine 3/6 with 2/6 to get me 5/6. And I know 3 plus 4 is 7. So remember, the key thing with adding and subtracting fractions is you have to have the same unit. You have to work with the same unit, and you have to find your least common multiple to be able to find your least common denominator here so that we can find our equivalent fractions. All right, And now we're going to see a video on subtracting fractions. Now guys, keep in mind that you can pause this video at any time so that you can catch up and you can go back and rewind it and replay so that you can see or take notes or keep practicing on the skill that you have a problem or that you're working with. Alright guys, now we're going to move to subtracting fractions. Just like with adding, we have to find our least common multiple so that we have these will be common units, okay, the same unit. I mean, not common, the same. So I'm going to list 3 and 6, and some of us can eye this by now and say, oh, I know 6 is going to be our least common. But for those of you that are still unsure, remember we're just listing our multiples until we get to the least common on the same row. So I know for both of these, my least common multiple will be 6. Now I need to find the relationship. Well, how did I get from 3 to 6? I know 3 times 2 is 6, or 6 is my second multiple in my row. So now I have 2 times 2, which is 4. Just bring down my whole number. And then how did I get from 6 to 6? Well, that stays the same. That's just times 1. So that means our numerator will also stay the same. And my whole number, I just bring that down. So now I need to subtract 5, 6 from 4, 6. I don't worry about my whole numbers right now. I know that I cannot take 5 from 4. Okay, we learned that back in first grade. You only have 4, 6 available. You need to take 5, 6 away. Well, I've got to borrow from my whole number. This becomes 6, and since I'm working out of 6, I've got to add 6 sixths to this. So now I have 6 and 10 sixths minus 2 and 5 sixths. Okay? Now I can subtract 5 from 10, so I know 10 minus 5 is 5. Of course, my denominator stays the same, and then I can work with my whole number. 6 minus 2 is 4. So my answer here should have been 4 and 5 sixths. All right, back to the slideshow. Moving right along. Oh, and I did include the, I included your anchor chart so that you could see the examples here, and you could pause the video on that if you were working when you go to do your work. All right. Here is the video on multiplying and dividing fractions. Oh, I don't think it's going to work. All right, guys, let me see if I can figure out a different way to get you the all right, let's see. All right, sorry about that. I know 4 times 1 is 4, and 5 times. Now we're going to move to multiplying and dividing fractions, which we discovered this school year is much easier than adding and subtracting because you don't have to find the common unit, okay? Remember, the multiplication sign stands for of. So if we were doing an area model, we would say 1/6 of 4/5, and we're taking a piece of a piece. So when we multiply a fraction less than 1 by a fraction less than 1, our answer is getting smaller, okay? Because we're taking something less than 1, multiplying it by less than 1. So here we're just multiplying straight across, okay? I know 4 times 1 is 4, and 5 times 6 is 30. And that's all. That's my answer right there. Easy as pie. Now, you know this looks much more like a 5th grade fraction. Here, we have to turn our fractions greater than 1 into, or I'm sorry, turn our mixed numbers into fractions that are greater than 1, or improper fractions, okay? So I know that my two denominators here are going to stay the same, okay? And I have to make these improper. Well, 3 times 2 wholes gives me 6, and then I have 2 pieces that I need to add to that. So 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 plus 2 is 8. So here I get 8/3. Okay, I do the same thing here. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 plus 4 is 9. So now I'm just multiplying 8/3 times 9/5, and I can just multiply that straight across. 8 times 9 is 72, and 3 times 5 is 15. Now, we know that that is a large improper fraction, or a fraction greater than 1, and that we would need to divide that, because fractions are the same thing as division, so that we get our mixed number. So here I'm just going to set this up. 72 divided by 15. I know my multiples of 15 as 15, 30, 45, 60, 75. I can't quite go to 75, so it can go in 1, 2, 3, 4 whole times. 4 times 15 is 60, and I'm going to subtract to get a leftover amount of 12. This gives me 4 wholes and 12/15 left over. So here is my answer for this problem. 4 wholes and 12/15. All right, now we're going to do dividing fractions. Okay, dividing fractions are a lot like multiplying. This problem right here is asking us how many 1/5 pieces are in 3 wholes. How many 1/5 pieces are in 3 wholes? So I know, if you can remember, after we did our models and our investigation, we came up with really all we can do is keep, change, flip. So we keep our first fraction the same. Well, we know 3 and 3/1 is the exact same thing, because 3 divided by 1 still gives me 3. So we're going to go ahead and move this into a fraction. Okay, so we're keeping it. We're changing the division into a multiplication sign, and then we're flipping this second fraction in the second fraction only. So 1/5 now becomes 5/1, and I'm just multiplying this straight across, giving me 15/1, which equals 15. So there are 15 1/5 pieces in 3 wholes. Okay? Here, this problem is switched around. This is 1/5 divided by 3. If you had 1/5 of something and 1/5 of a whole and divided that by 3, what fraction of the entire whole would you have? So, of course, I keep my first fraction the same. Keep, change, and I'm going to flip this. So if I have 3/1, it now becomes 1/3, and here I have 1/15. So 1/15 of the entire whole is how 1/5 could be split up into 3 wholes. All right, I hope this review has been helpful.
All right, guys. So after you have viewed those videos, you are going to have your fraction review on Edulastic. Then you're going to have an IXL meeting. We will meet Friday to discuss this, and after our meeting, we're going to have a fraction review on Google Forms, much like you did for the decimal review. Now, please keep in mind, I know this video moves quickly. You pause it on your own and you rewatch the parts that you need help with. Jot down some notes, star some problems you don't know, so that we can discuss it Friday in our team's meeting. See you then. Bye.